Good morning. Good. Member engagement, business services, advocacy, and education. Those are the foundations of this organization, and you'll find them throughout this annual conference. Today we shine a spotlight on VACo education, and we have brought many programs to you over the last year, and I just want to note a few. We've had 7 regional meetings. We've had about 20 legislative steering committee meetings, all had an education component. We've had the County Officials Summit this summer, focusing on burning issues for localities. We've had topical seminars ranging from stormwater management to ethics reform. And we have upcoming sessions, one in December on finances, a financial workshop. We have the Supervisors Forum in January, which, although crafted towards newly elected, is a great program for anyone who has also been in office for a while and needs a refresher on the core topics that you deal with. Today and tomorrow in this conference, we have 12 concurrent sessions on topics that you all have requested and 6 general education sessions for you to add to your knowledge base. For the next couple of minutes, we'd like to feature our premier educational program here at VACo, the Virginia Certified County Supervisors Program. This was instituted 10 years ago, and it was a partnership with Virginia Tech and the Virginia Cooperative Extension. And in those 10 years, we've graduated 54 supervisors from 39 counties. I'd like to introduce this morning our instructors, Dr. Mike Chandler and Dr. Martha Walker, to tell you a little bit more about this program, and we will follow that with some comments from a newly graduated member of the program.
Thank you, Phyllis, and good morning. I'd like to begin by thanking each of you for being here this morning. We know that there's a lot that commands for your attention, and we know that they're comfortable chairs, but they're not the most comfortable chairs that we get to sit in for an extended period of time. I also would like to thank and congratulate those of you who have chosen to put yourself before the voters and were successful in being selected to be a representative of the people for your home county. Running for public office is never easy. It's for some of us, myself included, I found it exciting and enjoyable. I know that's a little odd, comparatively speaking, but being honored with a selection to serve at the local level, as the NACO president referenced, you are the closest to the public, you're the closest to the citizen. We are the level of government that is indeed the difference maker in terms of the quality of life or lack thereof in our home jurisdictions. I want to thank also Jim Campbell. Jim's probably not in the room, but Jim and I have known each other for the better part of 35, 40 years. And when I was newly elected to the Blacksburg Town Council in 1984, I quickly learned what I didn't know. I remember a colleague saying that, well, gosh, you've got a master's degree in city planning and a doctorate of public administration. You tell us what to do. And I kind of smiled, fortunately, and I said, well, let's just see. And I quickly learned that I was the tip of the iceberg that's visible above the waterline, and that the iceberg of governance extends deep, deep below the surface. And that it's important that we understand that there's a huge difference and distinction between electioneering and governing. You have electioneered successfully. Come January, you'll be challenged to govern. And that's a different ballgame. That requires a different set of skills, abilities, attributes, competencies, desires, and emotional control. It also demands that you have a fundamental grasp and understanding of the opportunity before you, and that means that you will learn more about your local government system than you possibly thought was possible. You will learn that you're a tip of the iceberg and that you have command of some issues, some topics, some extremely well-balanced and comprehensive command of said issues. But you're going to discover that there's a great deal that you do not know. That brings us back to the importance of education, as Phyllis indicated. And I applaud VACo for having education as a preeminent objective and purpose of the organization, what it attempts to bring to its members. Education is a game changer. I think everyone in this room would attest to that. Education helped form me and helped make me into whatever it is I am today. I know that the book will provide a lot of insight, just as Tom Davis was sharing with his book. But we know the book is yet to be written that answers all the questions or even poses all the questions. We have to learn by doing. And governance, in many respects, is a learn by doing enterprise. But we have gained insight relative to the governance challenge, and we can package that in such a way that we can share the information gained and the knowledge and the understanding of the governance process. About 28 years ago, Jim Campbell, who was Deputy Director of Virginia Municipal League, well, you may not have known that. Jim was with VML before he came to VACo. And having been on council for a few years, I suggested to Jim that we might think about doing what I was calling a mayor's school. Why not have specialized training and overview for persons who function as mayors? He liked the idea, sold it to Mike Amex, and about that same time he moved on to VACo, which was a huge gain in my view for your organization. But we offered the settled on what became known as Virginia Mayor's Institute. And when Jim got over to VACo, he said, now we're going to do one for VACo, and we're going to call it a County Board Chairman's Institute. And I believe, Phyllis, in 2016, that'll be about 30 years running, or 25 years running, I guess. 1991, do the math, Mike, or 25 years, I don't know. Long time. You beat VML to the punch. Jim came over and instituted it immediately, and VML has been doing the Mayor's Institute as well. And that led to the next conversation with Jim, which was, we need something that goes beyond the conference in early January is wonderful, whether you're new or veteran. And we're Chairman's Institute in February is wonderful. But beyond that, we need more. And so that's what led to the evolution of the Virginia Certified County Supervisors Program. And where we are today, I want to provide you with just a brief overview. We have 5 courses. It's a challenging program. When it was designed in 2006, it was the only program of its kind in the country. And I don't know, I can't say without qualification, but it may still yet be the only program of its kind in the nation for county supervisors or county commissioners. I've been blessed to visit through educational programs 44 of the 50 states, and have yet to come across what we do here, what you do here with your VACo program. What's different? You come to class, but you're given homework. A lot of programs you come, you participate, such as the conference, which is wonderful, and you get credit for attending the conference. Our dream, our goal, Jim and I talked, was, well, let's make it interactive. Let's make it such that the individual participates by being present, but then we challenge him or her to do more at home, and then they come back for another day in the classroom. Hearing that, I'm sure many of you have thought, no way. I don't have a day to give to class, and by gosh, I got to read books, and I got to write essays. I'm not doing that. Well, 54 of your colleagues have chosen to do that, and seek them out. I see Bob Thomas, I see Meg Bumpke from Stafford County in the room. You're going to hear from our most recent graduate, Patty Cooper-Jones from Prince Edward County. They're going to tell you that you can do it. Take on that challenge. Respond to their clarion call to become engaged in the active pursuit of knowledge so that you can in turn extend that and apply that back home. 5 courses: Governance in the 21st Century, the Role of Leadership. More books written on leadership than any other subject save for the Bible. but yet we still are searching for the book that gives us the clearest insight. I think our students have found favor with the textbooks that we provide them, but that's a course that you take. You come to the classroom for a day. A day is usually 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Then you go home for about 8 or so weeks and you respond to the homework assignments. Then you come back for another day in the classroom. Managing while leading, a review of your powers, duties, and responsibilities. Making a governance difference, the role of vision-driven policy, deliberation, and decision-making. Inventing your county's tomorrow today, the role of community planning. And then finally, the class that finished just this past Saturday, financing public services in the 21st century, the role of budgeting. Those are the 5 courses. 3 courses a year are offered. The sequence of courses is a function of who is returning as class members, and so they're not offered at a particular time, and you can join us at any time. I'm going to now transition to my colleague, Dr. Martha Walker from Virginia Tech, who is our partner in this exercise, and much appreciated partner, for a little more insight and perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. That sounded kind of like dry, didn't it? Wait, but we do owe a big debt of gratitude for Mike Chandler because of his leadership and what he has done to put this together and continues to challenge us. My job is to challenge you. We say it's all about governance, it's about leadership, it's about understanding budget. And so in the content of the class itself, there's books on those topics that you're going to read. There's information that you're going to discover. Things that you're going to go, I didn't know that, or I don't like that at all. And we are trying to help you see maybe an innovative idea, an innovative way to transform some of the things that you might be doing in your local county. It is meeting goals as identified in your strategic plan. If I read the strategic plan, it's strategy 6, and it all has to do about education. So in this content of each course, there's always going to be a book, and it's free. Well, it's part of your tuition, so just know that. So if you're paying for it, you need to read it. And the way Mike designs it is you have to read it and fill out questions and tell him what page number you found the answer on. So you can't just guess and have an opinion. It actually has to come out of the page. I love it. I do his quizzes too, trust me, because I need to know where he's going with this. There are articles that add even more insight. What did we just talk about, Jesse, in the last class on budgeting? Performance outcomes.
Budgeting for outcomes.
That's it, budgeting for outcomes. I think I even tried to lead that conversation, didn't I? I don't know. And we got into all kinds of conversation about how we might do it and what are some options and how do we create measures around where we put our money. You know, when we look at different programs, when I'm working with groups or nonprofits, I always say, show me your budget. If I can see your budget, I know where your values are. And it's true for counties. If I can see your budget, and for the state and federal government, I know where your values are. And so when you put your money into something, how do we, if that's your focus area, how are we measuring those returns? So that content really served its purpose. There are also papers, essays that you will write as part of that content, and then they're discussed. On the second class, we have conversations about what you thought and what's going on in your county. Now, that's the big picture, and that's what we tell the public. Now, let me tell you what really happens. It's a lot of conversation. It's a lot of networking. It's a lot of understanding what other counties are doing and how they're doing it and better promising practices of those counties. It's exciting to be part of those dialogues and to hear that energy and to know that now I'm linked to someone else who's similar. It's about innovative action planning. That's where it comes out. And you're taking these ideas back. I think, Penny, you said, don't leave the ideas in the room. You got to take them back. And that's what we see happening. So it's a very exciting 2 days of training plus several weeks between. It is an honor and a privilege and for Virginia Tech, Virginia Cooperative Extension, where I serve as a community viability specialist, to be part of this and to partner with VACo, to partner with Mike and all that we're doing on this. So we're very excited. So you are challenged. I issue you the challenge that says, what are you going to do with this? Are you willing to accept this opportunity to invest in yourself, to give back in a stronger fashion to your communities? Don't they deserve that? Don't they deserve the most highly trained and equipped individual to serve the position that you've been elected to? So I challenge you to do that. Mike said, I want to know how many boards are going to get one person to take one class in 2016. We're going to do a chart. We're going to do like a United Way or something. I don't know. So we'll figure it out. But more importantly, I want to say to you that people are doing it. And there are people in this room. And so if you've taken a class or have completed the program, just wave your hand so people can see you around. Yay! Great job. Yay! Now, I want to introduce you to one of our latest graduates, finished and was recognized last night, and that's Supervisor Patty Cooper-Jones, who just also was elected to her 3rd term on the board at Prince Edward County. So Patty, come up and give us your perspective.
Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure and honor to stand before you this morning and to represent being a graduate of the Certified Supervisors Program. It was truly an inspiring, and it's hard work, but it's something that you can take back to your county and make yourself more effective, and something you can share with your other board members to do better in your county. I feel blessed to be in Prince Edward County. I want to recognize our supervisor, Chair Howard Simpson. I'd like to recognize our County Administrator, Wade Bartlett. And I do thank the county for investing in me as a supervisor so that I had the opportunity to come and learn. I learned so many things. I always was curious about planning and zoning. I'm pretty well equipped with budgeting, but planning and zoning was something that just kind of flew over my head. And I realized that sometimes we just kind of go along with the flow because we really don't have the tools to work with. But I want to thank Mike, Martha, and Phyllis for taking the time to train us, to give us all the education we need so that we have the tools I have the tool to become a better supervisor for Prince Edward County. And I encourage all supervisors who have not taken the step to go out and get certified, do this course, to invest in yourself so that you can become all you can be to your taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Good job. There's no doubt we've made great progress in our educational efforts over the past year, and there's going to be more each and every year. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our next keynote speaker, whom, quite frankly, I have not met yet. Good, thank you. Need to know where I'm looking. Jan VACo, CEO of Fortis Group, LLC. She will speak about the 2020 workplace. 5 generations working side by side. I looked at that and I'm thinking, I have a number of young people on my staff, and they make a big difference, pushing me in directions I don't necessarily want to go. So I'd like to hear more about this. Jan's 30 years of experience spans the corporate and nonprofit business worlds. She's led the process of merging various cultures and has held senior human resources and organizational development leadership positions in several well-known organizations, including A&W Root Beer, Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, and the Mid-Atlantic entity of the American Heart Association. She's partnered with senior executive teams, helping them to make their organizations a great place to work. She has a heart for helping emerging leaders develop into effective leaders that can meet the challenges of today's business environment, as well as helping seasoned leaders continue to develop in their leadership journey. Please welcome Jan VACo.
Just have a look and listen.
I'll shoot you a text.
I put in 60 hours at the office last week.
I'm taking next month off to go hiking in Malaysia.
I worked hard to climb the corporate ladder.
I should already be at the top of the ladder. I mean, I have a degree.
I have a sense of entitlement.
Oh, so do I.
Oh,
Hey.
I like Folgers.
I like Starbucks.
I like Fleetwood Mac.
I like the iMac.
I just got a Facebook account.
I just hacked his Facebook account. And he doesn't know this, but I plan on getting his job when he retires.
She doesn't know this, but I'm never going to retire. Casual day means I wear jeans.
Oh, and business attire means I take out my thumb ring.
All right, well, how about this? Why don't we focus on what we admire about each other?
Okay.
You start.
Okay, well, I admire your experience and your knowledge.
I admire the way you can get things done quickly.
Well, I like how you can talk to somebody and stay completely focused.
I like how you can send, status, upload, tweet, and view all at the same time.
Well, if you think about it, my generation, I mean, we were practically born playing video games.
Yes, but we were taught if you work hard, you'll win the game.
Oh, my generation, we were pumped full of self-esteem.
Which is why you got a participation ribbon for everything you did.
You know, we could use a little more of that here at work. I mean, does anybody ever say, hey, good job getting your work done? Good job getting your work on time? No, it's just like, it's expected.
Well, I think this discussion has been a success.
Oh, I agree. I have been amazing.
Really? How do you know?
Oh, it says so right here.
Hi, I'm a baby boomer.
And I'm Generation Y.
And we're in Generation X, and we're stuck in the middle of all of this.
And I'm Jan Bezos, and I'm a cusper. And what that means is that I have 1 foot in the baby boomer generation, and I have 1 foot in Gen X. I am thrilled to be with all of you here in the beautiful county of Bath County. I am from Richmond, Virginia, and I live in Henrico County, and thank you so much to VACo for having me. Like you, I am one of the 4 generations currently navigating the world at work. And being co-parented by traditionalist grandparents who were shaped by the Depression, and a mother and father shaped by the swinging 50s and the tumultuous 60s, I find myself identifying most of the time with the baby boomer generation. However, 4 years ago, when I started Fortis Group, I think I really am also starting to identify even more with Gen X, who really has an entrepreneurial spirit. So thanks again for having me. Growing up in Michigan, I grew up in Monroe County, Michigan, southeast Michigan, in the 60s and 70s. And I recall the days of not only emulating Paul McCartney in my garage band, but I also remember singing to Kathmandu, Bob Seger's Kathmandu, in my 1974 red Pinto that faded to pink after years of driving that Ford Pinto. So while I was driving my Ford Pinto and listening to Kathmandu, my grandparents, again, who co-parented me, who are part of the traditionalist generation, they were glued to their Zenith television without a remote and glued to watching Walter Cronkite airing the news that President Nixon had resigned. Okay, can somebody help me turn that? I got it. There we go. Okay, as I entered the workplace in the mid-'80s as a young human resources professional, HR was still called personnel. And an arrival of a fax made us feel like we were cutting edge and that we were even groundbreaking. Candidates for jobs back then were really hired on face value versus their reputation on Facebook. I learned that you managed by walking around, not by hopping on GoToMeeting. So, Today, there are 4 generations working side by side, and we know that where 3 or more are gathered, there's a chance for both triumph and trouble. Okay? We all bring, each generation, we bring different views of the world, and we're learning to leverage. I work with many organizations that are learning to leverage and learn more from this generational mix of thoughts and ideas and values. So let's start with the oldest generation that's in our workplace. The traditionalists, or known as the veteran generation, were born before 1946, and this generation has a very strong work ethic. If you give an impossible task to a traditionalist, somehow, some way, it always gets done. Most have served in the military or have been married to someone that has been in the military, and as a result, traditionalists tend to be very respectful of seniority, title, and rank. Because their world outlook was shaped by the Great Depression and World War II, traditionalists have a very practical outlook. They make do, they reuse, they recycle, and they know how to put money away for a rainy day. Each one of us here has probably a friend or a colleague that kind of sits in that generation, who is a part of that generation. I have a friend named Al, who is still working, and he's working at the American Heart Association. And I knew Al 14 years ago, and for the past 14 years, Al calls me each and every day on my birthday to wish me a happy birthday. This is just one small example of how this generation demonstrates a sense of loyalty and friendship. So with Al and his peers, somebody like Julie Andrews, they tend to operate from the value mix of loyalty and dedication. And then we move on to the baby boomer generation, born between 1946 and 1964. We, the baby boomers, invented the 60-hour work week. And the work ethic seems to be, at times, that all are called to work until we drop. However, baby boomers, what I love about baby boomers, they have a tendency to make endings into beginnings. As we know, in 2010, 74 million baby boomers were supposed to retire. And as they delayed retirement due to the recession, the boardrooms, the teams, remain a little bit more crowded. However, the ending or the beginning of the retirement is really a beginning. I don't anticipate baby boomers that I know who are going to go out front or on a front porch and do some rocking and play bingo. Although I love to rock and I love to play bingo, I don't anticipate many baby boomers doing that. At least some of the baby boomers that I know are starting new careers as they transition from their organizations to another career. And so my friend Chuck just recently reluctantly retired, and as a senior vice president of an organization, he is transitioning from his career. He's moving from the C-suite to helping emerging and evolving leaders get this leadership thing right. So he's starting a brand new career, and he's joining Forbes Group in a few weeks, and so he will be helping the next generation of leaders get this leadership thing right. So Chuck and his peers, along with Michelle Obama, tend to operate from values of hard work and being a team player. Okay, so I've just mentioned 2 generations, so now on to the 3rd generation, Generation X, born between 1965 and 1976. Gen Xers are free agents of the workforce. They tend to be independent, self-reliant, and entrepreneurial. Because they don't find value in wasting time with non-essential stuff, they shattered the myth of if it's not broken, let's not fix it. Gen X, they grew up as part of what we would consider the latchkey generation. They saw 40% of their parents were divorced and or lost their jobs in the 80s and the 90s. As a result, Gen Xers are very concerned about family time. They have somewhat of a mistrust of institutions, and they tend to be, at times, a bit skeptical. After all, they tend to bristle at rank and titles and hierarchy, because after all, they saw their parents having both of those things, yet they lost their jobs anyway. When they receive an email from their boomer boss at midnight, they don't necessarily think that boomer boss is working hard. They're concerned that their boomer boss might not be able to handle the work that's in front of them. So my friend Gordon, you might have some Gen Xers that are friends of yours too, but my friend Gordon is a Gen Xer, and he's a bright leader who has great intention, and he's had several jobs, each one for about a 3-year stretch, which that was done by design on his part, moving from each one job to the next, learning as much as he can, and flexing his work hours. That's very important to Gen Xers. And so that he could spend as much time with his family. Gen Xers, once again, are very family-oriented. So Gordon and his fellow Gen Xers, they tend to operate from the key values of life balance and respect for individuality. So now on to the 4th generation, the millennials, or otherwise known as Generation Y. This generation was born between 1977 and 1997, and many are entrepreneurial, and they had legitimate jobs before they left high school. They're very they're savvy in technology. I knew I would get it out somehow. Okay. And they've never known a world without mobile devices or 24/7 interconnectivity. They see themselves as citizens of the world, and they feel very comfortable connecting through the internet. Millennials, you'll find millennials fly to Europe and to visit friends instead of like traditionalists and baby boomers where we just cross state lines. Family vacations are now on cruise ships where before they were maybe at a cabin or a lake. Despite the controversy of our human ability to multitask, this generation seems to be creating a new frontier, juggling multiple tasks simultaneously. My nephew Jonathan is a millennial, and he has been to more countries than I have been to states. As a senior in college, he's taught underprivileged kids in Jordan, and he plans on being a positive force in international government. So Jonathan and his peers, and my favorite quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. Is there a Packer fan in here? Is there anybody? Anybody? A Packer fan? No? Joe, you pretend you're a Packer fan. There you go. Okay. All right. So Jonathan and his peers hold the values of making a difference in their world and respecting diversity. So just when we think we've got the 4 generations down, and we're starting to learn about the 4 generations working side by side, very soon our workplaces are going to become even more crowded. And as the 5th generation joins us at the world of work. And as the Linkster generation joins us at the world of work, the jury is still out because they're still very young. But there are some emerging clues. The Linksters are definitely digital natives, where opposed to digital immigrants. And here is one of our very own Linksters, Emma Grace, who lives in Richmond at our house. And you can see that she is successfully multitasking and wired for sound. You will see a familiar item called a book, and she has repurposed that book to hold her what? Her iPhone. Okay? And so, while I reluctantly have a Facebook page, Emma Grace steps into Instagram flawlessly as she calendars and captures her life each moment of her life with great ease. So there you have it, 5 generations working side by side in the workplace. So what do we do with that? Many of our clients say, Jan, what are we going to do with this generational mix in our workplace? What does that mean for our workplace, for our teams, for the future of our business? So it means that at times it will feel like the wild, wild workplace. And what I mean by that is this new frontier will inhabit very different expectations from the generational mix in how to approach work and life with different mindsets, different value sets, and how each generation has been shaped. They're bringing all of that experience and that mindset with them. This new frontier poses many challenges where I believe civility, if it's not already tested in our workplace, it will continue to be tested. Because what's going to happen is hiring is going to be based on one's reputation on Facebook. It's also going to be a place where employees are already having an opportunity to hire their next boss, but that will be mainstream, where employees will get to weigh in and actually hire their new boss. The phone is the new office, okay? And work-life balance is replaced by work-life blending. So we're helping our clients through this multi-generational challenge. We have a program, a leadership program called the Emerging and Evolving Leadership Program. And much like the program that VACo offers your supervisors, it's a comprehensive program where leaders from around the community come together and try to figure this thing out in terms of leading toward the workplace 2020 and beyond. So what we know is that there's going to be a certain skill set for leaders. I believe one of the reasons, let me back up. One of the reasons that we started Fortis Group is we believe that leadership is a high calling. And it's not for everybody, and it requires a certain set of skills. Well, it's going to require a certain set of skills in and among the 2020 workplace. And so what we have, and doesn't that just make you tired, looking at all those 9 skill sets? The first one is a collaboration across enterprises, across communities, across teams, across the organization, and across generations. The 2020 leader is not only going to need to be a developer of people, but a developer of self, because there's going to be a lot more to learn as we approach this new generational mix. There needs to be a willingness to learn on the part of a 2020 leader. Obviously, technology is not going away, so being digitally proficient is going to be very important. Obviously, culturally and generationally intelligent is key. The willingness to adapt to change and lead change. An openness to innovation is going to be really important as that 5th generation joins our ranks. Also, being a 360-degree communicator, not just up and down, but all around, and also very adaptable. So what do we tell our clients? We ask our clients and encourage our clients, can you focus on 3 things? And the 3 things that we ask our clients and encourage our clients to focus on is, number 1, self-knowing. And self-knowing is all about what are some of my current biases and assumptions about each generation that's different from my own generation. And number 2, it's about becoming generationally intelligent. The second piece that we encourage our clients to focus on is get to know the other generations. Each generation comes with its strengths and its growing edges. And lastly, being flexible. And it requires us to move out of our generational comfort zone. So let's unpack self-knowing. So we encourage our clients to ask themselves, do you assume your next interaction with a millennial will be met with their eyes looking down and turned elsewhere, primarily looking down at the latest electronic gadget? Or do you think millennials only care about taking selfies at, I think that was a baseball game, wasn't it? Baseball game, right? Okay. So getting clear on your biases and assumptions is really all about self-knowing. Or maybe you happen to know a millennial, those millennials and linksters who care so much about making a difference that they're willing to sacrifice a weekend to go on a mission trip, sorting through a hoarder's home, building a wheelchair ramp, and teaching backyard Bible studies to those who live in community housing. This is another snapshot right here of the 5th generation who will be joining the 2020 workplace. So it's important that we overcome our assumptions and bias. And so we need to get to know the generation that's different than ours. So let's unpack each generation a little bit more and who they are and what they expect from the world at work. Also in your packets or your bags, I think there is a handout that is a takeaway for you that gives you a snapshot of each one of the generations and what they expect from the world at work. But here's a few things to put in the room. Traditionalists, they need to be respected, and they've earned it, and they have a lot to offer. They have lower absenteeism rates, and you can count on them to show up, and you can count on them to show up on time. They have a high commitment to quality. So if you have a traditionalist in and among your team, in and among your organization, put that person in charge of quality and quality control. They're great at face-to-face communication because that's what they grew up with and that's what they had to work with, and they have an awesome work ethic. They have a sense of a great spirit of loyalty, and they're willing to learn. My parents are a part of this traditionalist generation. They're both 78, and they were born in 1937, and they grew up in the 40s and 50s when, you remember, the telephone had a rotary dial on it, and that was when that kind of phone was in vogue. Well, today they have an iPad, and they are learning to communicate with their grandchildren through email. They still haven't got the attachments down quite yet, but I will give them an A for effort for sure. So those are our traditionalists or our veteran generation. So on to the baby boomers. We baby boomers, we're used to being involved and we're used to being in charge. And in and among our workplace, baby boomers can really be wonderful mentors. And for your teams, your organizations, capture the baby boomers' historical knowledge. That's what I'm telling the younger generations is do not let them leave the organization without capturing their knowledge. And they want to be respected for their experience. So don't give up on them. They might resist. We might resist a little bit of change. But the way you deal with that resistance is to form dual mentorships. So what I mean by that is if Generation Y happens to be the boss of a baby boomer, stay open to learning from that baby boomer and vice versa. Baby boomer, be open to that Gen X generation, and we have a lot to teach and learn from one another. And then we move on to the Gen X. Gen X, very independent, yet still likes working in teams. They're family-oriented. Again, they mistrust institutions, so building trust with them is extraordinarily important. I believe there are 3 buckets of team trust, whether you're on a team in and among your counties and communities, whether you're in an organization and on teams. There are 3 C's of workplace trust. Do I trust your competence, your knowledge, skills, and abilities? This is extraordinarily important to a Gen Xer, that you demonstrate that you have a high level of leadership competencies. The second C of workplace trust is communication. Do we trust how we communicate one to another? Gen Xers really want that direct line of communication with you. They don't want to hear it, things through the grapevine. As well as character, the third C of workplace trust, that you are who you say you are. So this is going to be very important to Generation X. They have little patience for policies and procedures. They want to be treated like peers, rather than subordinates. And I think if you let them know what you expect of them, just go ahead and watch them work and let them work. So that's our Gen X generation. And then we're on to the millennials, the fourth generation in the workplace. They are accused of being spoiled, yet caring. They're skilled more than any other generation in the use of technology. They may need coaching beyond their job description. Okay, so if you have some stretch tasks for them, you need to be very clear with millennials in terms of what you want them to do it. You need to tell, show, and do. They very much respect diversity, and they're very socially responsible. They do their best at work when they feel they're connected electronically and make that kind of heart connection with those they work. So that's the millennial generation. So on to Generation 2020. What you can offer them are flexible working schedules to fit in with their busy schedules. What you will need to help them with is modeling face-to-face communication. I don't know about you, but if you have a linkster living at your house, this is what we're constantly up to, looking eye to eye, face-to-face in terms of communicating. While technology will be their greatest strength and capitalize on that, communication skills will be their greatest growing edge. And they want to make a difference in their world. So the jury is still out on Gen 2020, the linkster generation. So here we are. The third thing that we mentioned to our clients is being adaptable and being flexible. So lastly, if you're a traditionalist, if you're in that generation, try an iPad. You'll love it that you can connect with your kids and your grandkids and your linkster grandchildren. They'll be happy to help you. If you're a baby boomer, stay open to your Gen X boss. He or she may have some valuable insight to share with you as you transition from the C-suite to your next career. If you're a Gen Xer, stay open to your baby boomers team member. They have valuable historical information, and please capture that before they transition to their next career. If you're a millennial, or if you have millennials at home or on your teams, encourage them. Reach out intentionally to the older generation. They're wonderful storytellers. Having that face-to-face communication and hearing their stories will be invaluable to millennials. And to the linksters, the fifth generation, we're counting on you wherever you are. I was met earlier yesterday by who I believe is a linkster, Gage. I think she's your daughter. And she was helping Gage and her mom with check-in. You know, we're counting on her and her fellow linksters not only to multitask, but do it all and do it all at the same time. So that is what we help our clients to do. So as you go about serving in and among your counties, making them safer, making them more healthy, making them more secure, may all of us, may all of our generations, as we move forward to Workplace 2020, rally around the fact that each generation has a couple of things in common. And that is that we want to be valued and we want to bring value. We can choose to discover our commonalities and our differences among us. We can choose to be flexible, open, and adaptable. We can be intentional about developing a better understanding of who we are and who's working among us. I believe that understanding creates empathy, and I believe that empathy creates connections with others. Those connections really do create a world at work that is grounded in a spirit of generosity versus the miserliness of tolerance. So I thank you so very much for having me. I hope I've left you with some insights, and I'm happy to take any questions for you for the next how much time do we got? 3 or 4 minutes. Oh, 3 or 4 minutes. Any questions? Anything? Oh, you got one? Okay.
Yeah, you're probably aware some of the code, I've heard about the generation before. Yeah, you touched, oh, thanks.
You touched on the X generations being entrepreneurial, and that was the one item that touched on my question, is that one thing that all of us as generations share is our financial planning for retirement. And, you know, I can remember 25, 30 years ago watching documentaries about how the Japanese as a society had not really provided for their elders, so they had to keep them all at home, and then because of the generational shifts, that was becoming a burden. And it seems to me that we as generations, like the, what do you call the greatest, Tom Brokaw calls it greatest, and we boomers have, in a way, conspired to undermine the Xers and the millennials, and I'm not sure if they even have the awareness to realize what's happened to them. They all just say, well, Social Security won't even be there, but you know, we've abandoned you know, the types of pension systems that have guaranteed payouts. We're apparently prepared to pay 80% of what's now the payment rate for Social Security. And we're raising these kids. I've got 7 grandkids, 3 adult parents, you know, children who are now parents. And so I guess that gives me an extra sensitivity to that. And I have yet to hear people talk about the generational issues that touch on that one common point of, and call it generosity or social awareness, but we don't seem to be getting the job done as a group. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, all right. So it sounds like there's a challenge there that you've put out there to each of us who might be in the traditionalist generation or the baby boomer generation. Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Anybody?
That was a question.
Okay, it was?
Yeah.
About the financial security?
Yeah, where do you see it going?
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you. All right, I thought there might be a question in there. Yeah, you know, I often wonder, you know, with Gen Xers who have that entrepreneurial spirit, if that's not why they're moving from job to job to get the highest pay for their work and also starting their own businesses. We would be mindful to encourage that generation, the millennial generation, create support systems for them to start their own small businesses. So that's where I see that generation moving. They're not counting on organizations and or perhaps their parents anymore to take care of their future. Yes.
My daughter told me that the largest number of startups are baby boomer parents hooking up with their millennial children to start businesses.
Yes.
And I'm sort of looking at, I mean, it's just amazing if the two come together. And I do think it's going to be intergenerational, a little more personal, needing to sort of help each other out.
Yes.
Because we're all going to need help in different ways as they grow up and we age.
Indeed, indeed. Wonderful insight. Okay, anyone else? One last question. Well, thank you all very much for having me. I appreciate your time and attention. I hope you have a great time in this beautiful place here in Bath County, and I wish you all the very best as you meet up with these 5 generations in your workplace. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you so much. And that concludes